Okay, now this topic we're going to cover is entering the equipment in the hub and how that whole process occurs. We've made some changes, really precipitated from finance having difficulty processing the equipment orders. So this is the new process that we're going to follow. Basically, the start is the same. You create out of Path Designer, you create the BOM. Then the construction management will vet the BOM and take a look at any thing that doesn't look quite right. An outdoor panel for an indoor site. It's a self-supporting structure, and you don't have enough coax associated with that. So they'll go in, they'll vet the BOM to make sure that the order is appropriate for the site. So none of that has changed. And then we enter it in the hub, and this is where the change really occurs. We're going to handle tally and CLO a little differently. CLO we don't have terms with. Basically, we pay them in tranches. As soon as we order it, we pay a tranche. When they send it out for shipment, they send an invoice for the second tranche. And then when we do the tune-up and test, we get the last tranche and have to pay the balance. With Tally, it's a little different. We do have terms with them. So we're not going to enter the Tally order in the hub initially. We're going to wait until they actually kit the order and send us what they call the sales order, which is actually the items that are going to the particular site. I think we'll find that this is a much cleaner invoice that we receive that we could match up with what we have in the hub that way. Because what we've been struggling with is things change so much between the time you order and then 10 weeks later when you actually get the equipment, and then weeks after that when you actually get the invoice. So real simple, we're going to handle it a little differently with Tally, and it shouldn't impact the project manager at all. It's just how we set it up in the hub that's going to be a little different. So I'll get out of this and we'll go into the hub now. When previously, when we entered equipment into the hub, we would create a quote, a single quote for, say, microwave radios. And here's the example from the GenCom job. So we have these radios, and you could see the quantities of each. And then in that line item, that quote line item, you have all your sites that received that particular radio. Well, the problem with this is when you have a change, then you have to track it down. You have to get down, okay, then when you have to cancel it out of here, and then you have to go back to the other quote for the other radio that you've changed it to, and enter it there. And is it more, is it less? And if it's more, you have to create a change order. If it's less, it's just a push. But it becomes a little bit onerous to manage. So what we're suggesting at this stage is to enter the equipment the same way we enter the construction and installation, which is by site. So we're going to go in the sample job, and nobody has done this, so this is still kind of a beta test. But I believe this should help manage the equipment a little better. So when you set up your construction and installation, it's by site because you're hiring a subcontractor, let's say TSC, to build the site. They're going to install the ice bridge. They're going to put up the antenna and run the coax and all that. And they're going to quote that job out by the site, the whole project. And that's what we quote out to the customer as well, is that we quote out the entire site. And I'm going to suggest that we do the same for the equipment. This is the construction and installation. You can see all these different line items. Obviously, you don't want to create a PO for every single task you do when you're constructing the project. You will add something if something's going to cost more. You'll create the change order and to account for that. But generally, you're going to bill out it as a single entity with all these different tasks. With the equipment, doing it this way, it's not so much for the benefit of the vendor, but for the benefit of the project manager. By setting up the equipment by site, it mimics the BOM a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and go in here to the sample site I did with the equipment. So I have my radios, media converters or switches and routers, antennas, antenna mounting hardware, cable, and DC plant enclosures. And this is all the equipment for that site. And even though it's kind of a long list, it's intuitive. You could see, you know what you're building at that site. So you could take a look and just scroll down and see if something looks out of the ordinary or wrong. And plus, it matches up with your BOM. For instance, I used this one as a sample, and I believe it was this site that I used as the format. But you can, the nice thing is when you enter this quote, you can cut and paste these elements directly into QuickBase. So it just simplifies the entry process. So when I went in and I was putting the all these cable and hardware things, I just highlighted the whole mess, copied it, and went in here and I just pasted right into it. I pasted the quantities, and when I got down to the bottom, I just made sure all the numbers matched up, and it did, and we know we're in good shape. And this makes sense just from a project management standpoint, because when changes occur, they occur by site. For instance, a rad height changes, so you need to change an antenna, but it's by site and perhaps the adjacent sites. So when you quote out a change order to the customer, it makes sense. And when you're making the changes in the hub, it matches what you're changing in the BOM as well. So it's just a good way of managing the project and keeping it just a little bit easier to understand and not have all these different formats that you're having to deal with when you're trying to reconcile the project. Okay? So I mentioned we're handling the equipment from Tally and the equipment from Cielo a little differently. That's what we're going to discuss on the next video.